Hello and welcome to Breakfast for Pancakes. I'm your host, PK Sullivan. Today I'm really excited because it is the first Chef de Cuisine Patreon video from my Patreon. The top tier of the Patreon lets you pick twice a year one recipe that I will make on video, really no questions asked. It can be an old family recipe, it could just be a classic dish, or it could be really whatever you want. I might put my own little spin on it and then I'll shoot a video and post it. This video is the first of those. Patron Dwayne Sibley has been backing for 6 months and he requested London Broil. So here we go. This is my take on a London Broil as a full steakhouse dinner. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Jumping right in with the steak. You'll need a steak, red wine, olive oil, steak seasoning, scallions, and garlic. Smash your garlic. Then trim the scallions and cut them into 2-inch pieces. Whisk together wine, the olive oil, and steak seasoning. The Chicago steak rub from Penzey's is phenomenal as a dry rub and works really well in the marinade. I don't often use pre-made spice mixes unless they do something I can't achieve making my own at home. This one includes some citric acid, which boosts the acidity without using additional fruit juice. That lets me keep the liquids to just the wine and oil. I'll have a link to Penzey's in the description. London broil isn't a specific cut of steak, it's a form of preparation. A relatively tough cut of beef is marinated, seared under a broiler or on a grill, then sliced thinly across the grain. This process transforms the tough meat into soft, tender, and flavorful bites. For this video, I'm using a whole flank steak. It weighs a little over 2 pounds. You could use a top round or sirloin cap, both work just as well. Load your steak into a bag, add the veggies, and pour in the liquid mixture. Seal it up and stick it in the fridge. Let it marinate 4 to 8 hours. Twice baked potatoes are a hearty treat of a side dish, and restaurants always screw them up. Here's how you do it right. You'll need potatoes, cheese, butter, bacon bits, shallot, salt, pepper, more butter, Penzey steak rub, and the not pictured sour cream. A good twice-baked potato starts with a good baked potato. Go ahead and poke your russet potatoes with a knife. The holes act as steam vents as the potatoes cook and the water vaporizes. Toss them in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. While the potatoes cook, mince your shallot. This meal has 2 recipes that call for minced shallot, so I'm doing it all at once. I find the mandolin is the best way to make a fine mince, especially on something small like a shallot. Start checking your potatoes after an hour. They're done when they are between 200 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit in the center. That's the point where the starches will have fully cooked, hydrated, and begin to gelatinize. Mine took about an hour and 15 minutes. Strap on your barbecue gloves because it's best to scoop and mash these while they're still hot. Slice off the top of each potato, then gently scoop the flesh into a large bowl. The skins need to remain intact so they can be filled again. I added the butter halfway through the scoop so it had time to melt before we started mashing. It's important to use room temperature butter so it melts quickly and without leaching too much heat from the potatoes. When you're done, you should be left with potato skin canoes. Set those aside. Now add your sour cream and cheese. Mash the potatoes with a large spoon or rubber spatula. We want to mash the potatoes fully with just the dairy before adding solid ingredients. You can use whatever cheese you like. Cream cheese works because it all but disappears, making the mash creamy and decadent without contributing much flavor. But you could use a cheese with more assertive flavor if you like. Cheddar, Gouda, and Gruyere all do a good job and will still melt into the mash. Next, add a big pinch of salt, some healthy grinds of black pepper, the shallots, and the bacon. The bacon bits are from 1 pound of raw bacon. Check out my video on breakfast strata for the proper technique on making those. Stir to combine. Using a large rubber spatula, Stuff the potato skins with the mash. Drop a large scoop in and firmly but gently push it down to fill the skin. Repeat until the skin is filled to the top and move on to the next potato. All the extra ingredients in the mash mean you'll have more stuffing than can fit in the potato skins. That's fine. Once each potato is full, mound the remaining mash on top of them. The mound should go up, not out. Lastly, use the tines of a fork to carve ridges in the top of the mound. You want to do this before refrigerating the potatoes, while it's still soft and pliable. Now the potatoes go into the fridge until we're ready to cook. With the steak and potatoes in the fridge, it's time to make a steak sauce. You'll need butter, shallot, red wine, and beef demi-glace. Melt your butter in a 2-quart saucepan over medium heat. Add the minced shallots and saute until softened, about 5 minutes. Add the wine and bring to a simmer. Let it reduce, stirring often to keep the shallots from sticking to the bottom. You're looking to reduce it by about 2/3. Bordeaux is a classic French sauce from the Bordeaux region, except it's not codified the way a beurre blanc or a bechamel is. The Bordeaux didn't come from a restaurant. It's a country sauce, cooked by farmers and villagers in the region. Butter, shallots, and red wine, all common ingredients in the region, are cooked with a meat stock and sometimes bone marrow. The end result is richly flavored and complements the beef extremely well. Bordeaux is traditionally made with Bordeaux wine. I couldn't find any, so I'm using a Malbec. Like a Bordeaux, it's a dry red wine with big fruity flavors. It's the same wine used to marinate the beef. Add the demi-glace and bring it back to a simmer. The sauce should thicken from the starch in the demi-glace. When you're done, you should have a thick, glossy sauce that is rich and bold with both beef and wine. Strain the shallots out of the sauce and set aside until plating. I'll be straight with you, the recipe I found didn't work. I had to make some modifications on the fly, and as a result, I don't know how much of anything I actually used. It was saved by the judicious use of some balsamic vinegar to balance it out, and adding far more demi-glace than is called for. The sauce didn't thicken, so I used some beurre manière to thicken it in the end. One of the absolute fundamental skills in cooking is heat management. In modern kitchens, this is easy. Stoves make it as simple as turning a knob to adjust the heat on a burner. Out on the grill, it's a different story. Managing your fire is the #1 skill you can learn as a griller or smoker. The first lesson is this: create zones of heat. For this cook, I'm setting up 2 heat zones in my kettle by using the charcoal basket. This puts the direct heat from the coals on one side of the grill. When I put the lid on, the rest of the grill becomes an oven and will cook food with indirect heat. For this meal, I want a lot of heat. The potatoes are going to roast at a high heat, and then we'll be searing the steak and broccoli. I take a full chimney of lit coals, pour them into my slow and sear, add the cooking grate, and drop the lid. While that comes up to temperature, it's time to finish prepping the potatoes. Take a tablespoon or 2 of melted butter and gently brush it across the top of the potatoes. Get it down into the ridges. Buttering the top of the potatoes like this will crisp up the ridges and turn them into a delicious golden brown crust. It's a tiny little detail that pushes the potatoes from good to awesome. Lastly, to tie the flavors in with the steak, go ahead and sprinkle some of that Penzey steak rub across the top. It's another little bit of flair that will make the potatoes really pop. Back at the grill, add your potatoes and cover them. This is going to roast on the grill for about 45 minutes. While that happens, head inside and do the final prep. The last dish of the meal is broccoli, olive oil, a lemon, salt, and pepper. This is my favorite way to cook broccoli. Remove the leaves, but keep the stem intact. Slice the whole head in half lengthwise. Brush it all over with olive oil and set aside as you make the vinaigrette. In a large bowl, whisk together 120 ml of olive oil, 30 ml of fresh squeezed lemon juice, a pinch of salt, and a grind of pepper. It will quickly emulsify and thicken. Now back to the grill. Outside, remove the potatoes from the grill. They should register 165 to 180 degrees at the center. When searing steak, chicken, and other large foods, I like to use these specialty grill grates. They help control flare-ups and do a phenomenal job of cooking. Put the cover back on and let those heat up for 5 minutes while you remove the steak from its bag and pat it dry with paper towels. Sorry, I don't have that on camera because all my cameras were outside. Once the grates are up to heat, add the steak and press it firmly in place. I add some chef's presses to the ends to keep good contact all the way down. When searing a steak, a good rule of thumb is to sear it for 2 minutes, rotate it, sear it for 2 more minutes, flip it, sear it for 2 minutes, rotate it 90 degrees again, and finish it off for another 2 minutes. 8 minutes total. This is a pretty standard treatment for searing a steak. Now, get it off the direct heat and check the temp. This was medium in the thinner end, my wife's preference, and rare in the thickest part, generally how I like lean steaks. I pulled it at this point, but you cook yours to your preference. What you want to do now that it's been seared is to leave it on the indirect side of the grill and put the cover on while you cook the broccoli. You want the ambient oven-like temperature of the grill to cook the steak through to the center. That'll happen as you cook the broccoli. The broccoli is going to get seared much like the steak. Drop it on the grill grates and try to get good contact with them. Put the cover on the grill and let them go for 2 minutes. Flip them over. Put the cover back, and it's another 2 minutes. At this point, the broccoli should be fully cooked with beautiful charring along the florets. Head inside to plate up. Whisk the vinaigrette back into shape, then toss the broccoli in it. Slice the steak. This was a 32-ounce steak, so I cut it into 4 8-ounce portions. Each portion was sliced thinly across the grain for plating. This is my rare section. A spoonful of Bordeaux with an artful swoosh goes down on the plate. The sliced steak is laid on top. 2 large pieces of charred broccoli go on one side, and a twice baked potato goes on the other. A final spoon of Bordeaux gets drizzled across the top of the steak. Et voila. And there you have it, a complete steak dinner for 4 people. London broil is a great way to feed a crowd. It's a big, flavorful steak. It makes a lot. All it takes is a little time. Sauce Bordeaux is a great accompaniment. Using the same wine in the sauce and the marinade really joins the 2 dishes together and makes them complement each other even more. Red wine and steak is a classic pairing. Putting red wine in the marinade and using that same wine in the sauce, absolutely excellent. I will definitely be trying my hand at Bordeaux again, modifying the recipe, seeing what I've learned here, because I think it is a really good sauce. I just need to dial in that recipe a little bit more. Probably shouldn't have done it for the first time when I was shooting live. It is what it is. Maybe if I can get my hands on some bone marrow. These 2 sides are some of my favorites for when I'm doing a steak out on the grill. I like charred broccoli. I really like charred broccoli. There's something about the way the florets transform when they're charred and just really blasted with heat like that. Then the dressing, the quick, I don't know if it's a vinaigrette. It doesn't have vinegar, but you know, it follows the rules of a vinaigrette. It's acid and oil whisked together. It still emulsifies beautifully and it has a really bright, delicious lemon flavor to it. Salt, pepper, it's super simple. I think it makes a great salad dressing, and it also goes just beautifully with this broccoli. And then twice baked potatoes, the Cadillac of mashed potatoes. They're big, they're bold, they're flashy, and I love them. And you don't have to grill it, you can do it in the oven. Just, you know, bake it at 400 for about 45 minutes on the second bake, and you'll be solid. Dwayne, I hope you're satisfied with this video, and if you give any of this a shot, please let me know down in the comments. I'll see you all next time. Later.